just want to poise these assholes. When they stand in the goddamn doorways. Fuck. Eat my fucking dick. I fucking hate crabs. I fucking hate them. Okay? They're armored water spiders. There's nothing likable about them. Fuck crabs. So most of you guys have probably heard about the new Crab Souls game that came out last month. It's a lot of fun. Creative, colorful, some quirky jokes. But I'm a slave to the king, I gotta admit, and I'm too bigoted to really enjoy playing as one of these nasty things, so I decided to bring Crab Souls home. The parameters of the run are pretty straightforward. Non-essential item pickups and drops are randomized along with shop inventories. We're doing every area and boss, and every non-NPC enemy falls into the crab genre. This means they have a 1/3 chance of being a lesser crab, 1/3 chance of being a giant crab, normal or smoldering variant, and a 1/3 chance of being an upgraded icy crab. And seeing as how their massive size, high speed, erratic attacks, and obnoxious ranged moves make giant crabs an enemy that most players just avoid at all costs, I'm excited to see what navigating the world looks like. Now as I'm planning out a build, I'm like 90% sure crabs are weak to what's called strike damage, which is the physical damage type dealt by hammers, clubs, maces, any weapon that has a smashing effect. I found out much later that pickaxes are not part of that group, but initially I did not know that. So we choose the deprived class with the war pick and we send Cockfree out. My recording settings were a little fucked up for like the first 90 minutes of the run, so the footage you're seeing is probably a bit more pixelated than usual, but I promise it'll look better in a couple minutes. Now the game wastes absolutely no time in letting me know that I've made a substantial mistake with this one. Every narrow pathway leading to Gundir's boss room is completely body blocked by giant crabs, and they piece me up several times before I'm able to find a workaround. But this is where we learn one of the major offensive tools at our disposal. Crabs are highly weak to the poise damage dealt by plunging attacks. So weak, in fact, that we don't even have to attack to stagger them, we just need to land on them. This is how we're able to line up a good jump and slide over this crab to go in and face Gundir. And he's just a little guy, so we put him in the dirt and make our way to Firelink's shrine. We dump our levels into health, perform the tree jump to be rewarded with some hot fucking garbage, and head out to take care of the master. The randomizer gave him a much less annoying weapon than he usually gets, so he's pretty much no trouble. With that, it's time to hit the high wall of Lothric, and before long we identify another weakness we might be able to exploit. Giant crabs aren't great at handling enemies at different elevations. If we can get safely under them using stairs or terrain, and we get them to face forward, then all of their attacks outside of the slam are less likely to hit us, and we can just wail on them from down there. The trade-off being that we are also more likely to whiff when attacking from this angle. But generally speaking, it's business as usual through the high wall. We want to get Grey Rat out of his cell so we can access his shop inventory, so we have to hit the basement to retrieve the key, then say goodbye to whatever souls we brought with us. From there it's a mad dash to Priestess Emma in Vort's boss room, picking up everything we can along the way. Vort is also just a little guy, so we send him back to Crab Hell and carry on. We recruit Yol for the free levels, find a sick new hat, and come to realize just how fucking scuffed the undead village really is. We press on with caution, singling crabs out and lobotomizing them when we can, and panic rolling and hoping for the best whenever they swarm. The Great Wood is, once again, a baby crab. It probably goes without saying that the bosses are not the interesting part of the run, so he goes down, drops us some new swag, and we start exploring the other wings of the village. After much consideration, I make the difficult choice to kill Seedward, believing that he would drop several randomized pieces of gear. The fight took absolutely forever, and he just ended up dropping the Katarina set like usual, so it wasn't really worth it, and I just kind of felt bad about myself. But there's no time to waste, so we finish collecting some decent loot from the area, kill this fucking prick as usual, and press on to the Crucifixion Woods. And this shit is a straight up nightmare. Oh hey, this must be that Age of the Deep Sea Aldrich was talking about, huh? Like earlier, we want to single crabs out whenever we get the chance, and just try to get lucky whenever we can't. It takes some attempts, but we get through the swamp to the NPCs guarding the ladder, engage in the mental battle, and we're down in Farron Keep. And the situation here is a lot like the situation upstairs, except it's a lot bigger and poisonous, and you move slower. It's hell, is what I'm saying, but by knowing our path through, taking advantage of the environment, and giving up a few completely intentional suicide runs to snag items, we get our 3 altars lit. And theoretically, we could just be done with this place, but I really want to go up the big ladder and pet the dog, so we have to deal with the 4 crabs currently guarding it. We're able to lure 2 of them away to face one-on-one, but we hit a snag on the last 2. Can I lure just one of them? Firebomb's probably not the best item to try that with, but fuck it. Okay, nope. Cannot lure just one of them. I spend the next 45 seconds or so in a lethal dance for my life before breaking their pathing by going through a hole and then making a dead sprint for the ladder. One of them catches back up and I assume that I'm fucked, but through pure divine intervention, he forgets to lock on and we manage to get away. Never a doubt. Never a doubt in my mind. The loot up here is mostly garbage and it was kind of a waste of time, but that's the nature of the beast. With that, it's time to face down the Abyss Watchers, and despite a minor hiccup at the door, the boss is a single crab, so we know how that goes. And now it's time to head to the Cathedral of the Deep. We have to go back through the woods to get there, which is unfortunate. But before long, we're ready to put down Crystal Sage. Then comes that brief stretch of woods between the Sage and the Cathedral, you know, that area that everyone basically forgets is in the game. I got interred in the earth like 4 times moving through here, as the environment provides many opportunities for the crabs to swarm and body block you. But by learning a little patience and taking it slow, we reach the cleansing chapel. We get off to a good start, bodying these 2 praying crabs back to back by taking advantage of the stairs, but as we get further into the area, a major issue becomes clear. About 3/4 of the crabs in the region have broken AI and won't attack us. This is unfortunate because I was expecting this place to be absolutely fucking miserable to get through, aka good footage. But there's a whole lot of game left to do, so we just move through the cathedral, killing whatever wants the smoke and mostly ignoring whatever doesn't. We close out this chapter by putting Deacon Crab to the pick, and we're off to the Catacombs. Thankfully, the crab AI is up and running again. Not thankfully. The Catacombs are a point in the run where the randomizer triggers a major uptick in enemy health, and suddenly our attacks do about half as much damage as they did 5 minutes ago. This makes for a very dangerous run around the Catacombs' tight corridors looking for loot, and results in a handful of violent deaths. But we do manage to find some decent upgrade materials and scurry along to High Crab Wolnir, whose substantial health pool makes it even more clear just how outclassed our humble warpick has become. We're going to want to keep an eye out for a proper strike damage weapon and a heavy gem going forward. We slide our way down into Smoldering Lake, witness crab on crab violence, kill the Mimic in exchange for a Titanite chunk, and we're ready for the loot run. Outside of an Estus shard, the lake is stocked with pretty much nothing but useless items, and the demon ruins don't fare much better, so we cut our losses and head in to confront the old demon crab. We disrespect the lesser species, head back to Firelink for some leveling, and it's time for Irithyll. And Irithyll is indisputable proof that this randomizer has my back, as we're given an undead bone shard, Havel's hat, and a shiny new stick that will come into play later, all within 20 seconds of arriving. With that said, the urban portion of the region is full of exactly the kind of narrow choke points that we do not want to fight swarms of crabs around, so we rush downhill towards the dungeon. Alva invades, acting all kinds of indignant, but once he's dealt with, we can carry on as usual. And you might be thinking to yourself, the dungeon's pathways are way too narrow for giant crabs to be in, and that is correct. But unfortunately, life finds a way, and Cockfrey finds a fucking body block at every intersection. So this takes a little time and does a real number on the camera, but after a bit we're able to reach the lower level, revamp our fashion. Oh, that's the one. That's the ticket, baby. And die in a dark cell. After the run back, we play things smarter and land in the profane capital. It's a chaotic experience trying to get the place looted. We just walk around them. Fuck! And it doesn't hold anything of real value anyway, so we move in to take care of Yorm and get out of there as fast as we can. After a quick jaunt to open up the rest of Irithyll, the next boss on our list is Pontiff, and unfortunately his AI broke as well, But on the plus side, this is probably the most majestic scene in the entire run. Anyway, autism aside, we beat the defenseless crab to death and press on towards Anor Londo. At this point, the crabs seem to receive another sizable buff to their stats, and my sanity is hitting a sharp decline, having to deal with one of these fucking dumpster bins blocking a narrow pathway every 10 feet. I stop and chat with the audience about the nature of man. I was like, you gotta understand, there's two sides to every gamer, okay? You got the inner Viking, and then the femboy. And I feel like this is bringing those worlds together in a healthy way. And then we gotta keep moving. The Anor Londo crabs are not happy to see me, so we do our best not to loiter and head in to deal with Aldrich, who I am, at this point in my real physical life, blaming for all of my self-inflicted problems. Now how about you deep sea these nuts, you piece of shit? And, you know, he's a crab, so even though they have quite a lot of health at this point, getting revenge is a pretty easy affair. And you know how it is after that, immediate teleportation to Priestess Emma and the Dancer Crab. We disrespect the lesser species, before moving on to the immense joys of the Lothric Castle. And this place has a kind of satisfying risk v reward feel to it, because the death trap item placements that it's always had are now even deadlier, but if we can make use of the plunging attack and elevation cheese strategies we've picked up on, we can navigate through the many perils with a relatively high success rate. After all that, it's time for the Dragon Slayer crab, and he does his best, but things don't go his way this time around. And the good news is that we found enough upgrade materials around the castle to finally raise that large club from earlier to a respectable +8, meaning it now overshadows our war pick and we can spice things up. And the Grand Archives get off to a decent start, but I'm still unable to effectively counter the crab strategy of just standing in the walkway. On the next run, I fare much better, cleaning most of the place out before dying to this random asshole. Just gotta no-hit him. Just gotta no-hit him. Or I won't. Then these two. And at that point, it's really just a pride thing, so we finish them off before proceeding. The sloped roof at the southern peak of the castle makes the angel crab encounter pretty easy, and the titanite slab we'd receive on a normal run is replaced with 10 prism stones. It's a moderately horrifying trek up the final rampart to the Twin Princes, but the crabs guarding it seem to have unnaturally small aggro ranges, allowing us to progress through a series of small group battles. The Prince Crabs are given a proper second phase, but it doesn't do them much good. And with that, it's time for the rest of the optional areas and DLCs, starting with the Consumed King's Garden. A camera malfunction gets the best of us on attempt 1, so we cut our losses on the next trip, deal with King Crab, and head back in time. And the untended graves are actually kind of a pain in the dick, but a survivable pain in the dick. And before long, it's time to face Prime Gundyr. We disrespect the lesser species, then mull around the flameless shrine looking for titanite chunks and the heavy gem that we still haven't fucking found. One of these prayers is answered, and we now have enough material to get our stick maxed out, giving us a respectable 296 plus 204 physical damage with our current strength build. And so, feeling powerful, it's time to hit Archdragon Peak. When it came time to do Ancient Wyvern, I had the cute idea of doing the area normally and seeing if the main crab would return to its proper position like the Wyvern does. Obviously, he does not, because that would be silly, so I had to climb down, then go back through the area until I found him, but it all worked out in the end. Upon being teleported, we get to do battle with some noteworthy NPCs, recover a substantial amount of useless equipment, horrifically damage our swag, and face the Nameless King. We disrespect the lesser species, and then it's time for the painted world of Ariandel. And in what feels like a bit of a first for this run, the giant crabs in the entire first region of the DLC are spaced out enough that progressing through the area actually feels pretty natural. But I can assure you that will come to an end somewhat quickly. Gravity makes a surprise guest appearance to humble me on my way down the routes, but outside of that we have a fortuitous journey to the Gravetender, and we even find a new hat. The Corvian village is hell on earth, but with a little luck we can shoot the gaps between crab attacks and make it over the gate to face down Sister Freed's simp. Big fucking dork clock. What's up, buddy? Yeah, you lack some fucking bitches is what you lack, buddy. And now the path to the Bud Church is similarly cancerous, but through what I can only assume is another act of God, we make it through with minimal damage and spin the wheel to open up Freed's arena, but not without paying the price. A price that, at the time, I didn't even realize was over 100,000 souls. But who's really counting? The always magnificent Sister Freed arena makes for a dramatic spectacle, but her crab form really stands no chance. After that, we take a brief detour to deal with Hawkwood the Scaly, then it's on to the end of the world. I was initially very concerned about making it through all of this, but on the second attempt they decided to solve the problem for me. This ass. Okay, fall off? Fall off? Yeah, oh my god. Get filtered. Oh my god, get actually filtered. In reality, the enemy density across the entire DLC looks a lot like this, and there won't always be a convenient cliff nearby to cheese them on, so I'll need to make best use of the strategies we've learned and further sharpen my hatred towards this life form if we're going to power through. This is a survivable drop, right? Oh, you fucking idiot. Thought you were slick, right? I'm about to invent some new fucking crimes with what I do to you, bud. The journey through the Earthen Peak is predictably chaotic, but the fact that there's no angels sniping at me from the sky also makes it narrowly doable, and we make it to the demon hole with exactly no Estus to spare. Finding the demon crab in his absurdly large arena proves to be more difficult than the fight itself, as once we do spot him, we disrespect the lesser species, and it's time to visit the Ring City proper. In fun news, we finally find the heavy gem we've been looking for since the Undead Settlement, which we can apply to our club for a net increase of about 30 damage. In less fun news, crabs are not the only thing giving me grief here in the Ring City. Gravity makes a surprise reappearance, then I get pieced up by this bullshit invader with his bullshit weeaboo weapon. And at that point, it's definitely a pride thing, so I expose him and we're rewarded with the +3 Havel's ring. We have a close call en route to the next bonfire, but make it through. The lovely, big open swamp area is largely uneventful, so it's just a matter of evading Madir's fire and dealing with some doorway crabs in order to press on to the last area of the DLC. We give the Madir crab an honorable death. The ice crab guarding Halflight actually puts up a really good fight, and I suppose that makes sense given the little guy we find inside. After that, we make the world substantially worse in classic Dark Souls protagonist fashion. Like how canonically fucking John Dark Souls is the most autistic person on the planet. Like, he happens upon the scene and his fucking instinct is to smack the fucking egg. Why are we fucking retarded? And it's time for Gale. And also that pygmy that's usually crawling away, I guess. Gale gets a proper 2 phases, and as a show of respect, we only moderately disrespect him for being a lesser species. And with that, this run has gone on long enough as is, so it's time to come home and deal with the Crab of Cinder. As a show of integrity, we strip down to face the crab on its level, and for the final time, disrespect the lesser species. We call in the Firekeeper to help us kill the first flame, and this run comes to its end. I realized towards the very end of the run that making the entire thing fist only probably would have been slightly more entertaining, but live and learn, maybe we can apply that to a future video. If you have any ideas about what you want to see from the channel, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys later.